You've faced battles most never fought, pain, struggle, adversity. But here, we use that as fuel. This is the Battle Harder podcast, where we motivate, educate, and inspire warriors of life, veterans, survivors, leaders. We share stories and strategies to turn pain into progress. Here's your host, Coach Rob. Let's lock in and battle harder.
What is up, guys? This is Coach Rob of the Battle Harder podcast, where I hope to motivate, educate, and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Today's episode is entitled Leveling Up Through Discipline and Consistency with my guest. This is going to be a fun episode because my guest is a Marine Corps veteran. He is a USA Today best-selling author. He is the mind behind the New World Series. But today we're not just talking about post-apocalyptic fiction. We're going to dive into the personal battles that shaped Michael's life, from overcoming obesity as a teen to reframing pain as a powerful teacher. Michael shares how discipline and consistency has helped him level up and reach new heights, both personally and professionally. So I'd like to welcome to the show, Michael G. Hopf. Michael, thanks for joining me today on the Battle Harder podcast.
Hey, Coach Rob. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a great opportunity. I appreciate you. Thank you.
This is going to be a good time. I love, first and foremost, talking to the veterans and having a different veteran perspective on things from mindset and professionalism. And you being a best-selling author, that's pretty cool. I haven't spoke to a veteran best-selling author yet. So before we get into the meat and all the fun and good stuff, just give me a quick synopsis of a breakdown of who you are, what you did in the Marine Corps, and anything else you'd like to share with us before we get into the episode.
Yeah. I've lived a pretty diverse life, and I've kind of bounced around from a lot of different jobs in my life, from Marine Corps to commercial diver to executive protection agent, bodyguard, dabbled entrepreneur, still doing that today, business owner, and novelist, best-selling author, publisher. And I always like to say husband and father. So I've got a really, really nice life, and I'm really blessed, but it's taken a lot to get to where I'm at.
I bet. And we're going to dive deeper into that today. So what did you do in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I was infantry. So I did 6 years in the Marine Corps. I was anti-tank gunner. So anyone knows like MOS lingo for the Marines, I was 0352 tow gunner. And then I was with the tank battalion for a few years, and then transitioned from that to infantry line unit, where I also got another MOS designation of 0331, which is a heavy machine gunner. So in my final 3 years, I was with the Weapons Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines.
So why every Marine I meet, they're all infantry and they all like gung-ho go into battle and they're shooting stuff. What made you choose infantry? Like, why infantry of all the jobs in the Marine Corps?
Well, it's because I wanted to travel around the world. It's plain and simple. I had really good grades. I could have gone on to college easily. Even had lined up some colleges that wanted me, but I just had this kind of desire in me. I was tired. I hated high school. I didn't want to continue schooling. I wanted to just kind of see the world. And I looked at the Marine Corps. My father happened to be a Marine too, back in the post-Korea era.
Wow.
In the mid 50s. And so his experience, it's just his kind of, from his experience, listening to his stories and just kind of romanticizing the Marine Corps being an expeditionary force, I thought that they would give me what I was seeking, and that was adventure. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to do cool, exciting stuff. And so I enlisted, and I enlisted infantry because I thought the way to do it was to be, if you're going to do it, you might as well be part of those few that are part of those kind of tip of the spear, so to speak, right? You have the infantry, then you get even tippier when you get like special operations group and things like that. But I thought the infantry was just, be a band of brothers, so to speak. And I got all of that out of it.
So how do you think the Marine Corps shaped or would shape you for what you do now in your future?
Well, I was just talking about this. One thing the Marine Corps really instilled in me that I remember was doing everything with purpose.
Mm.
Like everything. If you're walking across the street, do it with purpose. You're walking, everything's done with purpose. It just also gave me a lot of perspective. You're with a lot of people from all kinds of walks of life,
Mm.
from all different places and races, creeds, religions. You're just put into a big basket together, but you all have one kind of unifying purpose,
Right.
and which is really cool. And that's what makes the military tick. We're all a bunch of individuals. That's really all we are, right? And I try to tell it to people. It's like, we're not monotheistically, or not monotheistic. Like we're not like a monolith, and where we all think the same. We're just a group of individuals that have one common purpose, and because we all join for our own individual reasons.
Right.
I wanted to join. Some people join because they want college money. Some people want adventure. Some people, they don't have nothing else to do. I mean, there's a myriad of different reasons people join, but there is one common purpose, and then you get that common purpose too of when you're with your guys, when you're doing stuff that you're together, you're a family, right? It's a brotherhood, and you end up not realizing it. They also become a purpose too, and like it really, but the perspective thing is like one of my, I remember someone, his name is Derek Wilson. He and I were over in the Gulf War together.
Mm.
Yeah, he was a black guy from South Carolina, and just having conversations with him when things would just get real, and just telling me about his experiences growing up in the Deep South and just racism and all that stuff. I being a white, I didn't have any of that, but
Right.
I trusted him. We were tight, we were in the same squad. And so we were having these incredible conversations, and I really have always been intellectually curious. So I would ask a lot of questions. I remember one of the guys in our units too was a Mormon, and during the Gulf War was always trying to convert us. Teaching us all about Mormonism and things like that. But I was always curious. I wanted to hear, like, tell me about it. What's going on with it? So just perspective. You get to meet all these fascinating individuals from all these different walks of life. And so I definitely got that out of it a lot. And that the world is made up of a lot of different people. We come from a lot of different backgrounds, but we all are a lot alike in the same way too. Like we all want a good life. We all have people that we love. And I know I learned a lot about being a human being, if that makes sense.
No, it does, definitely. I tell everybody I joined the Navy to piss off my dad, but it didn't work. So one thing that, as a veteran on this show, you're the first one to bring up that, not the brotherhood part, but the melting pot. And it's an amazing experience because I think even if you have some type of racism within you, I think the military helps defeat that, because as you get to meet these different people, these different groups of ethnicities and religions, and you talk, and the one thing you have in common is having each other's back, and building that sisterhood, and making sure, or trying to make sure, everybody gets home safe at the end of the day. And when you're getting yelled at, you're getting yelled at together. When you're exercising, you're exercising together. So I think that also helps as we get out to be able to deal with society, and have a unique and different perspective on different races, cultures, religions. I think we're more open to try new things and new foods and meet new people, because for a lot of us that didn't experience that, the judgment goes away. So it kind of makes you a more valuable human as far as communication's concerned, and talking to people. So I like how you said that. So let's talk about a little bit about your childhood. You had mentioned about being obese and into a teenager, and kind of guide me through like your thought process and how you started to build discipline prior to joining the military even.
Yeah, so I was my mom always said, Jeff says husky. So always use these like nice words. Husky, I think, was like the body positivity word back in the 80s. Um, but I knew how other kids would treat me, and I was just fat. I was just a fat kid, and I wasn't always fat. I was just that came from just poor eating and not moving. It's as simple as that basic formula of too many calories in, not enough calories out.
Right.
And I didn't. It was interesting. It's like 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 pubescent, it was actually kind of easy to be kind of overweight. Didn't really think much of it. But then all of a sudden when you're going into like hormones are moving now, you're interested in other people. Now you're interested like, oh, I'm interested in that girl, but she's not interested in me because I'm fat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like this peer pressure. And there was I remember some things that were really powerful for me. And that was, I remember I was in a play. It was middle school, Bye Bye Birdie. And I remember being teased. I remember that.
Mm.
And this is where I know it can be a difficult, and I wasn't like bullied or like consistently teased. And this is something too, by the way, the 80s, there was not a lot of fat kids. Like, I think there's a little more fat people today than there was back then. I'm not trying to be mean to people, but I was like one of few. And, I remember being like teased a little bit. Again, I wasn't bullied or picked on, or it wasn't hardcore, but there was definitely people mocking my weight. And I remember complaining to my dad, and my dad was always in good shape. Again, former Marine, former law enforcement, always had to have that physicality about him. And he always kept himself in really good shape. And him telling me, my dad was a good man. He was a really good man. He just always gave me really good counsel. And he goes, you can fix that. Essentially, I can show you how to do it, but you can fix it. But you have to want it. You have to want that. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? He goes, it's simple. You need to stop eating as much as you do, and you need to start moving. I mean, I was like, oh, it's really that easy. I mean, sometimes things are so simple, but we still can't see them.
Definitely.
And he goes, you're just going to have to get uncomfortable. I'm like, okay. And that's what working out is. Working out is being uncomfortable. But he made a good point back then, which I've now heard so many times over the years, that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then at the same time, you may not like the discomfort of working out, but you have the discomfort of being overweight. So you're living in some kind of discomfort anyway. So why don't you be intentional and choose your discomfort? And it's like, oh, that makes some sense. It's like the light bulb was going off when I was a teenager, but also there's that pressure, that being teased, and that kind of instilled me. I talked to him. So I took one summer, and I was a maniac. I was going into from eighth grade. I was going to be a freshman. And I was like, I was determined. I was driven. I was like, I'm not entering high school a fat body. That's a Marine Corps term, fat bodies.
It's a military term.
Yeah. I was not going to enter. I'm not going to enter as a fat body. It's like, I'm going to fundamentally change my life. And so I said about that summer, my dad showed me, because I started running with him, and funny, because you got it. And he would start out, it was like, it's very simple, like go from here to that telephone pole. Like, okay, now you get to that telephone, go to the next one. Go to the next one. And even if you have to maybe walk, but keep moving forward until you're done with whatever. You said you're going to do 3 miles, do 3 miles. I don't care if you're crawling at the end. You do that. And then you do it. Then the next day you do it again. And the next day you do it again. So what it did is and then when I saw the weight coming off, I was like, okay, when you start to see progress, then you really start to get that drive in you. And that's what it was. And it was this crescendo. And then I also had the kind of like the hormones were kicking in at the same time, that age, and I was already starting to grow. So I had that metabolism working for me too. That summer, oh my God, it was the summer of 84. I lost 50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So that tells you how fat I was. And I lost, and I was a different person. And the way people reacted to me then I got that validation when I roll into my freshman year, people were like, is this the same Jeff Hopf that, like I was changed. Like I was transformed physically. I was getting attention from girls, like everything changed. And then I was done. I never went back to that ever went back to that. And I looked at that. Now that was the first thing I'd overcome. And I was like, okay, that took consistency. I remember thinking this on my own. It's like, got to do it every day. It's got to get out there and do it every day. I also had to watch what I was eating. Like, okay, so I need to watch this. I was like very disciplined about it. So it really instilled in me a concept of discipline, and then like layering that in with consistency, that I saw that I got a goal. And there was just a kind of an easy puzzle to put together.
Right. And I always tell people, so you nailed it right on the head. And I probably say this every podcast. You have to live comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's the only option to grow and progress in your life, no matter what you're going through. And exactly, you have to take action. That action has to become consistency. That consistency has to become non-negotiable, and then that equates to discipline, and the discipline equates to progress. I think a lot of times we get caught up in one, how do we do something, because there's so much information out there, so we just get frozen and we don't take action. And two, it's known everybody wants everything like right now, and the constant theme of everybody I talk to is anything worth doing takes time, whether it's writing a book, building a business, losing weight. And so that's awesome that you were able to have a father figure to instill that military mindset, and he kind of gave you like the guidelines of how I train clients, because when I coach a client and personal development, fitness is number one. I look at their overall fitness, their health, how they eat. And I always tell them, like, if you don't want to lift weights, if you don't want to run, swim, that just walk, just go for a walk, give them baby steps, right? And people don't realize you don't have to go to the gym and try to lift the heaviest weights and do all this stuff. You can start at a very small barrier to entry and be very successful with simple changes. So let's go into a little bit your theories on being a teacher, not a tormentor. Like, what story do you have to share with that, and what does that look like?
Being a teacher, not a tormentor. Going back when we were talking about how my father was with me at that time, that was what he was being. He wasn't tormenting me over it. He wasn't shaming me over it. I mean, there's this interesting thing where people, they feel like they don't want to be shamed, but just pointing out a reality is not shaming somebody. And what, I had come to him the entire time I was fat in those years. He never mocked me. He never because my father was always an individual that believed that, listen, we choose our own lives, right? He doesn't want me to be completely unhappy, but it wasn't until I came to him and I was talking to him that he says, well, essentially, like, I'm glad you're here finally. And let's talk about that. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's kind of how I know he kind of felt about it. It's like you finally, your eyes are open, you're aware that this is a problem, because it is a problem. Being overweight's a problem. There's lots of limitations in life. You can lessen your lifespan. You can live your life not to the fullest when you're like that. And I know I might take heat for it, but I don't care, because it's the truth. There's truth, because I lived a life as a very fat kid, and I had the repercussions of that. And then I was on the other side of it, I wasn't, and I know how my life was. So I have this contrast. I have this comparison and contrast to look at. And I lived life more to the fullest when I wasn't fat.
Right.
So he was like, when I mean like teacher, not tormentor, like with him, it was like when he first took me out for these runs, he was just with kindness, but firmness. He had a firmness about him. Like, okay, you're going to commit to this, and you're committing to me. Like, okay, I got it. That means when I tell we're going to run at 2:00, you be there. And he would be kind of hard on me, like, holding me accountable. And that's something too. There's an accountability he was teaching. Like, you're committing. Now you're committing to yourself, which is the most important thing. You're also committing to somebody else, and that's me, because I'm going to be here to help you. Like, okay, got it. So that means there's no slack. It's like when you're truthful and honest to yourself and accountable to yourself, man, there's so much value in that.
It's
People
like an
don't
awakening.
realize that. What's that?
I said it's like an awakening, right?
It is. It's like but if actually the person we should always be accountable to is ourselves. Don't you think?
Definitely.
That's how I've taken it, because if you can be accountable to yourself, then you can be accountable to anybody. Then, like, if you tell yourself you're going to do something and you do it, don't you feel so much better? Like, you don't have this, like, I swear there's some kind of guilt that people get that can build up over time, compounding interest on it. They end up feeling shitty about yourself because you've done nothing but, like, not be accountable, or you've lied to yourself. You've promised yourself you were going to go work out, or you were going to do this, or you were going to start this business, or whatever that was. You promised yourself, and then you don't follow through. There is damage, I think, that's done to yourself by not doing that. And so my dad was definitely a good teacher. He showed me things with firmness, but guidance is exactly what I needed as a young man. And never at once like was shitty about it. When he needed to be hard on me, when I needed that push, so to speak, to go that extra mile. Literally, sometimes he was there. driving me to do it. And until eventually I built up that fortitude, I could do it. And then he slowly, knowing I'd gotten the lessons, saw his way out. And then I was just like on like autopilot. Like he had done his job. He had coached me to the point where I was now able to be doing it solo. My dad was a good man. I miss him a lot.
And that's funny. I always tell people I want to work myself out of a job. So when I coach people, I don't want to work with them forever. I want them to be able to work on themselves and continue when we're done. And that's why I believe in the fitness first and then giving them the mindset tools and then the discipline to continue work. And I like how you said compounding interest. I never thought of that as a way of stacking trauma on somebody, but you're right. It stacks and stacks and stacks, and we push it away and we push it away. And then eventually you crumble. And I always tell people you can't take care of anybody else until you take care of yourself. One thing my wife taught me, which I never believed in or knew about, she always said, I'll love me first before I love you. And it wasn't a dig on, I don't love you and I don't want to, take care of you and I don't have this undeniable love for you, but I have to love myself first or I can't be there for you. I can't help you. I can't take care of you. And I think as humans, like you nailed it so much on the head, we have to internally have that value system where we work from the inside out, not the outside in. And we peer a lot of times through our eyes and we see the outside world and we're worried about, social media or how this person thinks or how this person wants us to be or how our family perceives us instead of just saying, screw it, I'm going to do what I got to do to be successful and everybody else can just get out of the way. So you have basically give me a little bit on like your routine and what you're doing now in the health and fitness space for yourself. And I don't remember, do you have kids and how are you instilling some of the wisdom that your dad gave you onto your children?
Great questions. But first I want to pick up real quick about what your wife said. It's so true. There's so much wisdom in what she said. And I've said something similar to my wife too. And it's true. You cannot express love unless you have love for yourself.
Right.
That's without a doubt. I have told my wife, and then this might be, she'd first take it. It was a long time ago. I was like, I never want to need you. I just want to want you. She's I don't understand. I got down to the concept of if I'm needing, like, then who am I without you? Like, it just becomes this, it's an interesting, something awkward relationship then. Like, do I need her for certain things in my life? That's different, right? You compartmentalize, like, I need her to go handle this and that from a kind of a more micro, but from a macro perspective, I don't need her. I want her. And that actually is more desirable.
Definitely.
Because I look at her in totality and I don't need her to fit somewhere that, like, that's the only reason I want her around because I need that. No, I want her in my life because she has all these positive attributes, all these beautiful things that I love and adore. Therefore I want versus need. And again, it's kind of that, I think it's kind of tied to that kind of concept of like loving yourself. Because when you love yourself, then you can express love, like honestly with somebody else. And you also aren't needing that person to fill in, to make you love yourself. Again, you're already complete. This person is just adding to that, is enhancing what you already are. Again, I digressed on that, but she's very wise, clearly. And fitness. So I'm fairly regimented, and I think it's important to do so. And I take on this concept of I have to do these things. It's like as important as breathing. And I break my life down, and I've come to realize these things over the years. First, I was always just all about physical fitness and going in the Marine Corps, and I performed really well in the Marine Corps and getting out as a diver. And all the jobs I had early on was all very physical. Right. So I had to maintain a level of physicality. So I've always kept myself in really good shape. But then I realized that true success in life encompasses what I call like this trifecta of health. And that is physical, mental, and spiritual. And spiritual isn't necessarily you have to be attached to a certain religion. Right. But I get a lot of that fed through meditation. And I would really encourage people to like lean into meditation. it's helped me a lot with thought process and mindset, emotional regularity. How do I regulate emotions? I think it's very important to regulate our emotional state. So we're not, and then I think through meditation and prayer, if you're doing it regularly, like I do, it's part of the whole thing, everything I do, that comes this connection that we're a part of something greater and grander than just ourselves. But say my routine is I get up in the morning, I do an ice bath. First thing, I have one of these like little cheapo ice pods that sit out there underneath my pergola. And it's like instantly it's what I do. I go in, I do 10 minutes, and I have a meditation I do when I'm sitting in there. And I think the beauty of an ice bath is it teaches, there's multiple benefits I think come from it. You probably know them all because you're a coach and you deal with this stuff on a professional level. But what I try to tell people, like, why would you do that? One, it's teaching myself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to get in there. Right. Trust me, sometimes I don't want to do it. So there then comes the discipline of my mind over my body, telling my body to shut up and get in there and deal with it. Because there's going to be moments in life where we're stuck in very physically uncomfortable situations. And then this is where the mind is hardened. And you just tell your mind tell your body to shut up. Just shut up. I'm in charge. You're not in charge. Because we can't be giving way to our body. Just every time our body feels uncomfortable, we just have to move, or it has to be granted to us. And this entitlement about this kind of, I don't believe in that. Like, we just need to be able to weather an uncomfortable situation. And the one way to do it is to train yourself to be that way. And then there's also lots of physical benefits that come from cold plunging as well. Much less like testosterone increase they talk about and things like that post getting out. So I go from that, warm up, and then do a little bit of work, and then I'm off to the gym. I usually walk to the LA Fitness 2 miles from the house. And so I just walk there.
Wow.
And I listen to a podcast as I'm going. So again, I'm stretching my legs, getting a cardiovascular thing, go to the gym, have a upper body, lower body routine that I do 5 days a week. And then I'm also as for physical stuff, I'm into pickleball lately. Playing lots of pickleball. I'm in a league. But I just recently got injured though. So I've had to adapt my working out. I strained my Achilles. It's a part of just, it happens when you're staying active, you get injured now and then. But then when you're injured, I just adapt to it. I just, okay, so I can't do this. So now I'm going to go do this. So I've been doing a lot more swimming because I can't do running or walking. So I just adapt that to swimming is a good exercise for cardiovascular. So physicality, I try to stay active a lot. And then as far as instilling into my kids, I think first you have to be an example for kids.
Yes.
Nothing's worse than like smoking a cigarette. Kid, I don't want you to smoke. Oh, really? You're sitting there smoking, Dad. What's going on?
What is it that do as I do, not as I say?
Yeah, and kids are smart, man. And kids are wicked smart. They're observers. That's what they do. That's how they're getting all the information in, and they're watching. It's like, wait a minute, you're telling me this? You see it all the time. Like, you're doing it. And so, my wife and I have lived very healthy lives. We're exercising and relatively eating well. It's not to say we won't splurge here and there and have some fun with food, but I think set good examples so that when we talk to our kids about it, they know we're not just bullshitting. We're like, this is how we live our lives. And so they're not perfect, but it was interesting as the kids are now like teenage, 17 and 15, you can see when they're not being teenagers and resisting, and then they are starting to do little things themselves. Like my youngest is just now, she wants her own gym membership. Like we were talking about it yesterday. I want my own gym membership. I want to go with my friends. Like, okay, love that. I didn't prompt her. This is what she wants to do on her own. Like, okay, that's great. You get your own. She doesn't want to go with me. She want to now go with her friends. So she needs her own membership. I'm like, absolutely. That wasn't me or my wife instilling that on her. That was them watching us.
Nice.
And seeing how we're living our lives. I think it's the example thing is the big thing. You have to, if you're going to talk it, you have to walk it.
Definitely. And your fitness routine is kind of similar to mine. I had an ice bath, a cheapy one, but it popped. So I don't have an ice bath at the moment, but I like that trifecta. I'm on the same page with you have to have, everything, you have to check the boxes, right? So whether you do some form of movement, exercise, some sort of healthy eating, and just like I always tell everybody, you can eat whatever you want, The problem is the overconsumption. As Americans, a lot of time we overconsume everything. So a lot of times with my clients, just cutting them back, not removing, but cutting them back on certain things, they see such a huge drastic change. And once again, it's that whole mindset shift of don't say diet, you can have this, but don't have 5 cheeseburgers, have one. So giving them that mindset shift. But like you, I'm very spiritual, and I'm going to give you guys here the secret sauce. I guess you'll hear it first here on this episode. Before every podcast, I just take some time to breathe, and I sit in silence, and I speak to the universe or God or whatever. I say, hey, just use me as a mouthpiece, speak through me, let me have a great episode, because I want people to listen to these things like this conversation I'm having here, which is amazing, and give you guys hope and value and healing, because we all come from different walks of life, and everybody I've had on my episode has some sort of different theory. But what's funny is everything kind of remains the same. You have to work on yourself, you have to take action, and you have to be willing to just kind of sit in silence and listen to what you're being told as far as, man, maybe I need to work out, maybe I need to eat healthy, maybe I need to stop listening to my friend and go to the bar every night and drink, and just making little changes. I always tell everybody, you only have to be 1% better every day, and that 1% better every day stacks up, and then you're stacking wins. And that's what's important. So we're definitely on the same wavelength. And I think a lot of times it's 50% with veterans or first responders. Either we're all in on fitness or we give up on fitness. And what I'm trying to do is put those pieces back together for the people that are giving up on fitness mindset, living healthy in a holistic lifestyle. So I love everything you say. Same thing. I try to lead by example. I tell my kids all the time, I just want you to have honor and integrity. And, my kids are all mixed. They're all half black. And I always tell them, unfortunately, everybody's going to see you as a black person. And so you have to lead by example. You can't half step anything in life. You're going to have to work harder than everybody else. It's just the way it is. But don't look at it as a bad thing, because it's not. It just means that you get an opportunity to work harder and be better than everybody else. So with all these theories that you have and how you operate, how did that lead into you writing your first book, formulating the story, if you want to give a brief synopsis of the first book, what it's about? And how did you feel when that became a bestseller and when that got published? Like, what was that like after doing all that hard work? I know that's a lot of questions, but.
Yeah, the journey to writing was started just as a reader. I dabbled in high school writing poetry of all things and other little stories. I'll just be honest. That's I dabbled in poetry. I had these little journals and things like that in high school, and dabbled in short stories and stuff. Nothing ever published. No one ever read it. Like just for my own gratification. And then continued to be a big reader, though, voracious when I was in the Marine Corps. This is before smartphones and all those other distractions. When you're in the field, deployed, you got is books. And so sitting there and just reading or playing pitch and whatever card games. But what is it? Was it pitch? Not pitch. What am I thinking of?
Thinking spades.
Yes. That's it.
That's the military game right there.
Oh my God, spades. I was thinking pitch. That was what I played when I was a kid. Spades. Yes. Everyone played spades. On ship, off ship, at base, all the time. But so I was journaling then about my experiences. I still have those journals. It's nice. It's fun to go back every now and then and read through them. But just being a reader. And then I'd lived my whole life as very physical, like use my body a lot. Again, you can imagine Marine Corps, commercial diver into executive production work. It's all leveraging my physical self. Realizing though, the whole way that my body will probably start to break down. It's just what happens. Like, am I going to be able to continue to do some of these things without injury? It gets harder and harder. You're just more, you're physical. You can be more physical just when you're young, when you're 20-some years old. It's right. The abilities are just there. At the same time, so I was like, is there, maybe I should do something, but it wasn't my girls were the big thing when they were little. I'd read to them. And I was like, that was like my job. And I was like going there, and I loved their like children's illustrated book. They climb into bed and let's read. And then I tell stories. I've done like, tell us a story about this and that. And then one idea I got was like, well, I told my wife, like I said, what if I wrote the stories I'd created, all this one character called Kiki the dog, and all these different adventures Kiki would go on. And I told my wife one night after I'd read, but tuck the girls in bed, it's like, what if I wrote like a children's book for them? It'd be kind of fun project and like a legacy for them. I'd make them characters in the book on Kiki's adventure. It's like, it's great. You do it. So I set about doing it. And, after a certain number of months, I had the book in my hand.
Wow.
And then I set about to like promote the hell out of it, which I did, and promoted it, went around, and I got all my money back. It cost me a few $1,000s to produce it because I had to get illustrators for it. I didn't do that. And so anyway, I got all my money back because I hustled and went around all different schools and did readings. But the main thing I got out of it was that here I had an idea. And I just put, again, going back to that consistency and discipline, like, okay, here's what I got to do. I applied it on a cerebral level versus kind of a physical level. I used all this in principles, created a schedule. Like, I'm going to write at this time. I'm going to do this. I had do this, do that, blah, blah, meet this, got to get this, put all these pieces together like a puzzle. And then consistency, discipline, boom, product in my hand, book. There I go. Like, okay, that's really cool. What if I did a novel? And I'd been at a point where I'd been reading a lot of apocalyptic fiction, and they had some of the plots lacked what I wanted to see, and I couldn't really find the book I really wanted to read. So I just decided, what if I just wrote it? And I set about writing it. And it took me a while, again, layering all those principles, consistency, discipline, blah, blah, blah. I figured, okay, I had this, like, I'm very like methodical that way. Like, okay, so if I wrote 1,000 words a day and I did it every single day, by the end of 90 days, it's 3 months, I'd have 90,000 words. It's like a novel. Like, that's how my mind thinks, right?
But that's awesome. That's a very,
by the way, that is how I when I coach authors, that's what I tell them. It's like, if you sit down methodically and you write every day, if it's 500 words, 1,000, whatever that is, you just you add it up. It's cumulative, right? It's compounding. You just
that 1% better every
1,000
day.
goes 2 becomes 3. You will have a novel at the end. You will have a book at the end of that. You just have to put in the time. And so, and there's effort, there's creative effort, and that's fine. But that's where meditation's an incredible thing. Sitting in silence, I do that a lot. I sit in silence a lot and just breathe. It's. I'm glad you mentioned it because I do the same thing. And so that I got the novel. I ended up getting an agent. So I was like, that was some village. Like, actually, this book's pretty good. Then I fired the agent, and then that wasn't working out. Wonderful woman. This wasn't working out. And then I set about to self-publishing it on Amazon back in 2013.
Wow.
And it sat. I had no expectations that of course, I had the dreams like, I'm going to be a world famous author one day. I was like, well, I remember telling myself, hey, man, if it makes enough money, I can buy you dinner once a month. That's great. That'd be awesome. And then it sat there. It was selling a book here, a book there. I'm like, oh, that's what's going to be. I'm going to be able to buy you dinner once a month. And like on day 10, I remember laying there because Amazon KDP they have this dashboard. I'm not sure you're familiar.
Yes.
You're able to track your sales almost in real time. And I was refreshing. Like, so I'd wake up every morning and I checked to see what the sales were. And I woke up and it was like 50 some sales that happened. Like, what's going on? I remember jumping out of bed, like, oh my God, what's going on? I said, this is probably some anomaly. And I hit refresh, another 5 sold. Hit refresh, another 2 sold. Like, what's going on? And I was excited, but I'm always been good about tempering my excitement. It's like, well, maybe this is a fluke, maybe, because I had done no marketing. I didn't know what I was, but just so you know, I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I had no idea what I was doing at the time. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe it's just, we'll see what happens. We'll give it a day. It just wouldn't stop. One day turned to 2, turned to 4, turned to a week. Sales are just hundreds, thousands. I was like, this thing had taken off. I'd had a Amazon bestseller. It had taken off. I was like, holy shit, this is like real. This is legit. And I was incredibly excited, but I also saw the opportunity that sat before me. I was like, okay, I've got a book that's selling. It's gone viral. That probably doesn't happen every day. What do I do with this? And I was like, well, the best thing to do is I need to get a second book out right away. I can't take 18 months to do it. I need to get this out right away. So how do I do that? I need to start writing it now, and I need as many hours in the day. It means I need to quit my job. So I went to my wife and I go, I need to quit my job. That's always the most fun experience for anybody. You met any spouse, like, I'm going to quit my job today, honey. And she goes, what? No, like authors don't make money. Writers don't make money. Don't be stupid. And I go, and I know her. So I brought in a spreadsheet and I was like, this is what I made for this month. And it was more than I made the entire year before.
Nice.
And I said, it's not stopping. You sure it's not stopping? I said, it hasn't stopped. And it's been 3 weeks or whatever at the time when I presented it to her. I said, I need to write a sequel and I need to get it out within 3 months. Because why 3 months? I go, to me, I can't wait. Like, I'm not going to sit around. I said, the window is open. I'm banking all these readers, all these people. The product page on Amazon had connected to its algos, and it was all over. It was featured on other people's product pages. It was like the #1 gift idea for in a certain genre.
Wow.
The #1 most wished for book. It was all this. It was everywhere.
I like that because, you know, unlike Netflix series, you have to wait a year till the release comes out. You had that mindset like, man, people love this book. The sooner I get another one out, the sooner people will get to go on to the next one. And you were just kind of hooking them into that storyline that you were creating, this character that you wrote about in this post-apocalyptic society. And you were just like, I'm going to feed them. They want to eat, so let's feed them more. And
yeah. And by the way, I want to talk about like my mindset at the time. Was I nervous? Yeah. Was I like, I mean, I was nervous. I was like, I mean, you even say fearful, like, holy shit, I got to do another book. Can I do it? I mean, that's a lot of heavy lifting.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of words to crunch out in a contracted amount of time. I was like, can I do it? But I also had this fear, like, are people going to hate this? Or do I have the right story? Like, there was all this fear. But this goes back to like this mindset, the Marine Corps told me that. I was like, listen, and also reading and understanding other successful people. And I think it's important for people to read listen to other people that have been successful.
Definitely.
And you don't have to clone them, but you can pull from them lots of nuggets, lots of knowledge, right? Like, how did they get to where they are? What are the little principles, right, that enabled them to be what they have?
Definitely.
And that one of them is being comfortable, being uncomfortable. My dad taught me all that and understanding that. So it means, okay, if I'm going to be uncomfortable, like I'm very uncomfortable right now. That's why I felt like very uncomfortable. I got to write another book in a short period of time. But I know there's this like glaring, it was obvious that I had to do it because that door closed. I don't know if I'd ever going to gin that back up again. I was like, so I just got, and by the way, quitting my job, very uncomfortable. Like I was putting myself at a lot of risk, putting my family at a lot of risk, but I was like, fuck it, man. I'm at the poker table. I was like all in.
Exactly.
And because it just felt right. And so I quit the job. I went to writing it full time. And I just took that fear and I just channeled it into creativity, channeled it. And I just started visualizing success. I started not looking at the fear. I started looking at the excitement of being a full-time author. And that's all I saw in my mind's eye. I didn't see failure. I wouldn't dream about failure. And this was before meditation. I would have visualization. I was thinking about my future. I decided to not look at the fear and only look at the happiness that and abundance I could bring my family when this was successful again. And that's literally all I looked at. And it took me back to something my dad told me when he was a state trooper. He goes, we always see accidents, someone on a road in the middle of nowhere, and they hit that one tree in the middle of nowhere. And so you know why? Because they're looking at that tree when they're losing control of their car. And I was like, well, that brought me back to this concept. It's like, so I don't want to look at my fear. I want to look at what I want out of this. So I tell people all the time, only see in your mind's eye what you want to see. Right? I want to see success. I want to see myself. I want to see a line of people lining up to buy my book. I want to see people around the world reading it. So I literally, this is before I'd taken any other courses about personal development and self-help and all that law of attraction stuff, which I ended up getting into later. I think I naturally gravitated to that. I only saw success. I only saw that. And I went about writing it. And man, the books were taken off. I put the Long Road was the sequel up for pre-order. It was selling like hotcakes. I was outselling Stephen King. I was outselling George Martin.
Wow.
Like I was getting calls from publishers left and right. Penguin Random House calls me up, offer me a huge amount of money to buy those 2 books and 2 more, which I signed that deal. It was like my whole life, it like in a short amount of time, it just completely transformed because I made that one decision to just set about doing something very uncomfortable. And I took a big risk and, but only saw the upside, didn't see the downside in the risk. And it paid off.
I love that. So can I help you write the script to get the Netflix deal?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
I actually love to write, and I have various scripts in my phone that are just sitting there. I'm a very creative person. I mean, I'm doing a podcast, my clothing line, I design myself. Creativity, I think, is a beautiful thing. But I love what you said, and I think you're the first guest to say this as well. So I always tell people, like, I like how you said you were looking at the abundance. You were visualizing what it looked like to be a best-selling author and what that would mean for you and what that would look like. And a lot of times, even when people talk to me and they're like, oh, you're going to do big things, I just reaffirm with saying, I know I am going to do big things. I am going to be the world's best keynote speaker for veterans. I am going to be one of the best podcast hosts for personal development. And I think you have to speak that into the universe to be able to accept that abundance. And I've said probably on every episode, you have to have limitless belief system, not a limiting belief system. There's no reason for us to limit ourselves. I mean, we're very resilient. We're very adaptable. We're very smart. We have literally no barrier to entry in anything you want to do because we have technology that basically will tell us everything. I mean, 90% of the time for me, if I need to figure something out, like as far as fixing something in the house or how to write something, read something, do something, I'll use YouTube and I'll just use it as a how-to and follow it. And I think people that feel lost or stuck, like you have to realize, like you can get a mentor, you can go to school, you can hire a coach, you can talk to a very well-respected author. Like there's no limit on our possibilities and what we could actually do. So what is the name of the series? How many books are in the series? And is there any continuation on that, or are you off to like new things now?
Yeah, there's so the series, the first book, and it's called The End, and there's 7 books in that series called The New World. There are spin-off series that I have called Nemesis, and there's some other there's some novellas that are also attached to the universe. So there's a whole set of books that are part of that. But the main canon of books is called The New World series. It comprises 7. Outside of those 7, there's more, but then I've done a total of 40 books myself.
Wow.
40 novels. And so I've done a lot of writing. My last novel was Cries of the Dying World, which I published in January of 2023. It's been a while. That was my 40th book. And that's a standalone apocalyptic novel, which is a very emotional story about people dealing with the entire world dealing with the last 2 weeks to live because there's an asteroid coming. And so it's an exploration of what do you do with their time? When you're told, everyone's told at the same time, you have 2 weeks left to live, like everybody. What do you do with that time? And it covers a myriad of characters as they're struggling with that and how they deal with it. I think it's always fascinating. It takes me back to one time I was fired from a job. And I always remember it always stuck with me. Like with one event, we all got fired. Three of us reacted differently to being terminated. This is when I was a bodyguard. And I was working for this family. There was 37 agents on covering this family. And I was working in the command post. And I was living with 2 other agents that also work in the command post. I was working a midnight shift, came back and drinking a beer at 7 a.m. because I was working midnight shift. So I'm sitting there having a beer with another guy. And we're just talking shit and hanging out. And then one guy, Scott, who lived with us, came out. He was like very emotional. And I was like, dude, what's going on, man? He goes, we all got fired. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. We all got fired. So I said, what are you talking about? And we all called, we confirmed. Yeah, the family they'd taken off to London with their principal principal detail. And then from there, they said, you guys are all canned. We're restructuring the detail. We don't need this many people anymore. The girls are going to be going to college anyway. Anyway, they terminated a lot of us. And I was like, I remember, so Scott was practically crying. Kevin was angry, started smashing stuff, and I was laughing. And Kevin, I remember Kevin yelling, what is so fucking funny, Hopf, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, it's just kind of, it is, look at it. Like, what's like,
it is what it is.
What are they going to do? I was just like, this is, but I was very calm about it, but laughing. So 3 different reactions, 3 emotional reactions, completely different, one event. So that's always stuck with me. And I was like, so whenever something happens, so say it's the end of the world, you get all these different reactions, right? And so that's what Cries of a Dying World really explores, is everyone's been given the 2 weeks left to live, and what are they doing with their time? How are they reacting to it? Some are turning to violence, some are turning to God, some are, turning toward family, asking for forgiveness of past grievances. So it's more of an exploration of the human spirit and human nature for that book, which again, I find fascinating. And if you look at the apocalypse itself anyway, there wouldn't be an apocalypse if everyone reacted in a way that was, they helped each other. Imagine if something happened and everyone came together and helped each other. Right? It'd be fine, but that's not what happens. So people get very angry and they lash out, and there's violence and riots and whatever, and other people hide and they run away, and it's so just, those cause problems. It always takes a certain percentage to cause violence, and that's always been that way throughout human history.
So what I want to propose to anybody listening to this, that's listened thus far, I want you to think about that. Like, definitely we'll put all the links for the books and everything and how to get in contact. But take some time after this episode and think, what would you do if you had 2 weeks to live? Propose that question to yourself and just sit in silence and think about that and see, take it real. Take that question real and see if that makes any kind of mindset shift or change in your heart or in your life, because time is short. Life is not guaranteed for anybody on this earth, no matter how healthy, physically fit. Now, obviously, we know there's a bunch of things we can do to try to live as long as forever, but anything can happen. And if you were about to die today, would that last 2 weeks, would it be a loss, or would it have been the best 2 weeks of your life? So there's some real depth in the book there. So I definitely want to propose that question. Before we sign off, one, where can people find you and reach you at? Where's the best place to get in contact with you?
Just go to my website at gmichaelhopf.com. Everything's there. Links to all my books. There's a contact page. People can reach out to me. I read all my emails. It might take me some time to respond, not like months, but I get some emails. But just email me if you want. And again, my books are available at links there or on Amazon. Some are also in physical bookstores, Barnes and Noble, whatnot.
Is there anything you'd like to share before I ask you the final question?
No, I would add this, that is everything in life that I've come to know now deals in our mindset, how we in perspective, where the question you just asked your audience is powerful, and if you take it serious, you will look at everything around you. Some of the other nonsense is nonsense. This is stupid. So many of us get distracted, like the cat in the red dot kind of thing, right? Yep. And if you really just to take your life and distill it down to what really matters, you would really embrace things a little differently. Maybe you wouldn't rush as much as you would, or you wouldn't do this, or maybe you would treat people differently if you knew that could be the last time you're ever going to talk to them. I think, was it Marcus Aurelius had something, was memento
mori? Remember, you have to die.
Yeah. So it's that same concept, knowing that you're going to die, right? Once you have that, you have a different perspective on the world. So it's a good question to pose people.
Definitely. That's actually one of my favorite quotes is, remember that you have to die. So I think you already answered this, but this is the last question I always ask my guests. What is your thoughts on turning pain into progress?
I probably overuse this word a lot with people I know. I reframe everything
I like that.
everything is reframed to being an opportunity. That a failure, I used to say, there's failing and then there's failure. Failure is like the past tense, right? But everyone fails. Everyone can be in the process of failing. What do you do in that moment of time of failing, right? It's how you define it. I define failing as a lesson, as a teacher, as an opportunity to learn and grow. So when even bad things happen to me that I have no control over, I take ownership of them and ask the question, how did I get to that space and time that I was at that intersection of life for that thing to occur? And I really I feel once we take an ownership of our lives, that we own all of it. And also, by the way, it's the same kind of, when you're posing the question, you ask people to take ownership of everything in their life, even when they want to feel like a victim, like there's no word of victim does not exist. Everything that happens to you is your cause. You will take life, you will act and speak and do things very intentionally, knowing that your action or your word could be the seed for something bad later on down the road that could come back to you. You look differently at things, how you speak to people, how you conduct yourself. And that is the ownership. Because what if I got in an accident, but someone T-boned me, but maybe I wouldn't be there in that intersection at that right time if I wasn't distracted, because I was distracted because I must have done something that maybe wasn't. So there's all these things that create all these, what I call bridges of incident that lead me to that intersection where I get T-boned. That maybe I wouldn't have been there go back 6 months, I didn't plant that seed that brought me to that point. I know it's more of a deep conversation rabbit hole. If we had more time, it'd be fun to dive into it. But we understand that you are the creator of our reality. What's that?
We'll have you back on the show and we'll do another conversation about the universe's intentions and all that good stuff. And I love what you said, and I always speak with intention and purpose. I always try to be very kind to people, even if they're rude to me. Obviously some incidents you can't avoid. I always try to make sure I have plenty of time to leave early so I'm not frustrated. I've learned very recently emotional regulation control and how not to let things like people rushing, cutting you off, or someone not holding a door open for you, or someone getting your food order wrong, not letting that ruin your day, ruin your life, and what I call throwing an adult temper tantrum. And as a veteran and a former police officer that has all the mental health issues listed to man, it took me a long time to realize that everything made me angry. I was always angry, always dark, always negative. But changing my mindset to the gratitude, changing my mindset from working from the inside out, and then having deep thought, like you said from your book, 2 weeks to live, what would I do? These things build a better mindset. They build calm. They build peace. I'm by no means a millionaire, but I'm like the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's a beautiful thing to not have or deal with mental health issues, because I don't think they ever go away, but to be able to be resilient and be at peace and be calm. So awesome.
By the way, just so you know, real quick, can I jump in? That right there is success. If you've built a life where your home is peaceful and harmonious, it's your sanctuary. And you have the means, and you're providing enough to everyone's fed, and you have a roof over your head, brother, you're good. Everything else is like the whipped cream and cherry on top of all of it. To have peace of mind. And by the way, when you're talking about the gratitude thing, that is a way of you're not looking at the failure, you're looking at the things you like. And so when you only look at that, that's what gratitude is. Gratitude is focusing and being grateful. And so therefore your eyes are gazing upon the things that you love. And that's what ends up always in your life then, because that's all you see. It's like, tell people the exercise, man, like the exercise of like, I want you to go out now and only see orange cars. It's amazing. You'll also see orange cars everywhere.
Right.
And so that's a little bit of proof of concept. So only see opportunities, only see love. If you go out there thinking everyone's an asshole, guess what? You're going to see a bunch of assholes. But if you go out there saying everyone's loving, there's abundance, there's happiness, That's all you're going to see. And I want to leave one. I know we're running out of time, but I want to leave this one story real quick, because it was very powerful to me when coming into about the concept of gratitude and reframing things, and just also the perspective that we're all just human beings and we all just want to be loved.
Right.
And that was in the grocery store line. It was at holidays, right? And there's a lot of people. And so there was this woman that came up. She had a bunch of stuff in her arms, an older woman. And I was like, oh, just jump ahead of me. It's fine. And then the cashier looks at me, kind of rolls her eyes and looks at the woman. Apparently the woman was like a homeless person. I didn't realize it. She wasn't like stereotypical, but apparently that was the history of it. I find out after she had checked. So she goes in and she kind of dumps everything on the conveyor belt. And I'm just like, whatever. And then she's like crumped up dollar bills and change. She kind of spills out on it. And the woman's very agitated. The cashier's very agitated and like rolling her eyes and being snarky. And I was thinking, I mean, whatever, this person is what it is. And anyway, she moves on. And now this woman's in a bad mood and she starts making comments like, oh, that's what I needed. She was already emotional. She had allowed this woman to change her emotional state.
He was projecting her day basically based on her emotional control of being upset because.
Yeah. And then she was like being grumpy. And then she was like eye rolling at me. And so I changed it quickly. I looked at, she had her nails were all done and they were like a holiday stuff on her nails. And I was listening to her, she said something grumpy to me. And I looked at her nails like, your nails are really beautiful. That's really festive. I love that. And she goes, and she paused and she looked at, oh, you like them? I said, they're amazing. They're gorgeous. And I said, look at you. You're all festive. It's this little reindeer thing. Goes, oh, my son gave that to me. And I said, your son's, what a wonderful gift. And we had this nice little exchange and her entire, everything lifted up for her. Everything changed.
You basically mentally assassinated her.
Yeah, I just was just kind to her. Instead of challenging her grumpiness. Oh, you shouldn't have treated that homeless person that way or whatever. Why are you an asshole? I know deep down, she's actually probably a very sweet, nice person. And I just talked to her that way and gave her some compliments, and her whole life she was super happy. And so it just takes those little moments.
Yeah. I've noticed that too, especially a restaurant or a grocery store or anywhere where someone has to wear a name tag. And if they're having a bad day, if you just use their name, hey, John, how are you doing today? Just acknowledging a person. People want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen.
Yeah.
And you made her seen by asking about her nails. And she probably was very nice to the next few customers, for the rest of the day. So that's
I don't know, but it all depends what she chose to do with that.
Right.
But instantly, you're right. She was seen. That's a good way to put it. And all I had to do was so simple. Just be nice. It took nothing from me.
This was awesome. This was a great conversation. And guys, if you like this conversation, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. This will be on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. We will have G. Michael Hopf on again to talk about some other awesome things. I think we had a great conversation. And as usual, always turn your pain into progress and continue to be fit for battle. I've been Coach Rob, and G. Michael Hopf, thanks again for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach Rob. Appreciate it.
Hold on a second.
You've just heard another battle-tested conversation. Now it's time to take action. If this episode lit a fire in you, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube so you never miss a moment that could change your life. Want to go deeper? Connect with Coach Rob at BattleFittedBrain.com for coaching, gear, and tools to help you turn your pain into progress. Remember, life will test you, but you're built to battle harder. Until next time, stay locked in, stay ready, and keep showing up.